Nah, I got something to prove and I ain't never gonna give up. Plenty of juice and I ain't never gonna waste it. Something to do and I ain't never wanna quit it. So come on, get a little bit, I know you wanna play with it.
Coming to you from Studio Iguana Monk down in the Big Dirty, it's the Twisted Pop Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a working artist living in the real world. Please welcome your hosts, Larry Lines and Troy Wingstop.
Okay, so this is the Twisted Pop Podcast, episode 16.
Do you have anything else to talk about? If this is episode 16, I think we would have run out by now.
Yeah. I don't know.
How'd you get sick?
Oh, Lucy,
Oh.
my daughter. She started school. She started second grade.
Oh, yeah.
That's what early elementary school is about, training your immune system.
at least here in the United States.
Yeah, so she brought it home, and I got sick, and I thought I was getting better a couple days ago, and then it just took a left-hand turn, and I'm sort of swimming. That's what I feel like. I sent a GIF to somebody, said, "How you feeling today?" And it was like all these wavy lines.
Oh.
Yeah, that's because I feel okay sometimes, and then I'm just like, oh.
Right. When you have to be on, you have to be on, and then when you're not,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So we have Dielle today, and we're going to interview her. So that's good. It's I knew very little about her. I met her through Aaron Trum, and then I've listened to her music, and it's some good stuff. So it's I'm looking forward to talking to her. It's one of our first remote interviews.
Yeah.
So there's the technical challenges. They've been ramping up for a while. I think we've been trying to interview Dielle since before the hurricane.
Oh, okay. This is where I know this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that I was going to schedule her probably the week of the hurricane.
Yeah.
And then nobody was doing anything. There's nothing going to happen.
Right.
So then we started talking again on Facebook yesterday. And then I was amazed we got this scheduled. She actually initially said this time, and then went, and I was like, I don't know if I can do that. And then she went through like 80 other times, and none of them worked. And I was like, all right, let's do it tomorrow.
Right.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know much about her other than her music is good. It's very her influences are Carole King and Joni Mitchell. And I've listened to a lot of the stuff, and you can hear those influences for sure.
And she's currently working on a horror soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's all the stuff she's doing. It sounds cool. All right, so let's go to the
butterfly. Oh, it's a new horizon. Oh, say hello, butterfly.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's funny when you hear something and think, oh, I recognise that. Oh, I wrote that. Oh, that's me.
So, all right, we're here with Dielle, and
Hi, Dielle.
Hi.
And we're on the Twisted Pop Podcast, and you are in Britain somewhere.
I am. Yeah, I live on the south coast, so if you look at the map of the British Isles, and there's an island at the bottom called the Isle of Wight, and I live on the mainland side of that. So we're in a tiny town called Wickham, which is just outside Southampton. If anyone knows Southampton.
Yeah. So you grew up near the Isle of Wight, so you're kind of like right in the middle of the Isle of Wight festival, right? That's the big...
Yeah, it's massive. It's the Isle of Wight festival is a huge thing, and just people in wellies from all over the place just hoard here.
Hoard.
But yeah.
That's funny. You sound like people in Austin and the way they talk about the South by Southwest.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't really talk about the music or going, oh yeah, we've grown up around South by Southwest. you always think of these things differently when you go Isle of Wight. I mean, Jimi Hendrix played there.
I
right?
know.
But you grew up
It's
right next to
crazy.
it, and you just think, oh man, 500,000 people just show up once a year and ruin my life.
And there's I don't know if you've I don't know why you would know, but there's that strip of water is renowned for being the most expensive strip of water in the world, like how much it costs to travel a really short distance.
Wow.
Is and it's just, you know, for days there are queues at the ferry terminal with just, you know, people in wellies, just hoarding onto these boats. And
That's amazing.
This year was good, I think, but the last few years the weather's been terrible and it's been a bit of a bust, I think. But the music is always good. Yeah.
Do you ever go, or do you just go, oh, there's those hordes of people?
I don't actually. I haven't been to a music festival. This is an awful thing to say. I haven't been to a music festival in the audience for for quite some time. I'm really short, and I never see anything.
Oh, man.
I never see anything. So since I got too old for people to lift me up so that I could see. I tend not to go to that kind of thing, and I don't really have time and that kind of thing as well. But
that makes sense. I mean, we have music festivals in Houston, and they have really great lineups. But really, a lot of the time, I think the same thing. And then I go to South by Southwest one of these years, but you know, it's you run out of time to do all that stuff.
I think you totally have to. You know, there are some festivals that are just awesome, and I really should make more of an effort to go to them.
Yeah. But then the price tag too. A lot of festivals.
Yeah.
Woo! So
that's true. It is hundreds, and the Isle of Wight is the same. It's the Isle of Wight festival is an awful lot of money.
A festival coming up,
and then you've got to get the ferry as well.
Oh
so,
man,
ferries
that's
is really
be
expensive.
It's like $100 or £100 for the trip across the water. That's terrible.
Yeah, I think I went with my car a couple of years ago, and I think it was £50 each way to take my car, and you can have the car full of people, but there's only me and my other half, and it's something like 15 minutes.
Wow.
It's not very far at all. It's crazy.
And I guess anyway, they this year a couple days ago somebody posted the Day for Night festival here in Houston, and it's got like 9 Inch Nails and 5 other really great. Daniel Lanois, which how many times do we get to see him perform solo outside of just producing records and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure, amazing.
Yeah, but it's $240.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't know about that, $240. I don't, it's not worth that much to me, but maybe it would be under other circumstances.
It's cool if you're gonna stay, or if you're like massive fans. I went to see, having said I don't go to music festivals, a couple of years ago, Carole King, who's my biggest hero ever, played in the UK for the first time in 30 years, and it was one of those things that I kind of made my peace with the fact that I was never going to see her, because she's kind of, she never liked touring, and she's 74, and and I
that's
just
a
kind of
once in a lifetime thing. You got to do it.
Totally. And I paid a stupid amount of money for tickets, and went with a friend of mine who's got great elbows, and she got us right to the front, like really, really, really good spot.
That's funny, because that's like a vision of going to see Rob Zombie, right? Like you got to power to the front, but you're seeing Carole King.
Or like getting on a bus in Asia, if you're not violent, you won't ever get on a bus.
That's
You're
funny.
just always
So
people are just push past you. Yeah.
I lived in Hong Kong for a couple of years, and that's
did
exactly
you?
true. You don't think it when you get there, but the only way on is to start a fight. You gotta like.
Oh man, it's so like, and in Britain we queue. We like wait in a line.
Very polite,
and,
yes.
Yeah, and it really did shock me, like getting on and off. But I lived in Sri Lanka for a year when I was young with them. A close friend of mine. And we'd like just continually miss the bus because you can't, and she's really tall. Katie's really tall, and and all these, little Sri Lankan ladies are all tiny, and it's like, we can't push past them. That you're like a foot taller than they are. It's so rude. It's just so rude. But yeah, and I sort of stand back and watch them, physically pushing her in the back, and
man, they do this on purpose too. They see Westerners, and especially white people, and they go, they're gonna queue, and they go, I'm gonna mess with them. They enjoy this. Like, after being there long enough, I talk to enough people. I go, oh yeah, they're coming right off the train. They see your face outside the door when they open, and they go, I'm walking right in his face.
It's funny.
Nice to know we're loved, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I've been listening to some of your music. It's very nice, and it's very well produced. Do you do a lot of your own productions?
I do now, yeah. I heard you play the opening track to the title track of the Fearless album just earlier, and Fearless and Beautiful Monday I didn't produce myself, in as much that the role of the producer has changed massively. I produce myself in the sense that Joni Mitchell produces herself, that I have the vision of like what I want it to sound like, but I've worked with various sort of engineers and producers to get the sound.
Yeah.
I have my own studio now, so yeah, I'm just in here every spare minute I've got, and doing a lot of that with Chris Wood, who plays in my band. He's a amazing bass player and producer, and he's producing me at the moment. So
yeah, that's really great. I was looking at some of the live footage too, and if that's the bass player that you're talking about, then you're right. So it's a very good band.
There's I was gonna say the tall guy with no hair, but actually there's two of them.
There's two tall guys with no hair.
There's Greg, who I played with for about 10 years. He's in some of them. So like, I don't know if you've seen the ones like on the roof at the Square Tower. There's some really nice videos of me with a guy playing double bass. That's Greg.
Huh.
And he had a baby last year and had to give up some stuff. So
yeah.
After about 10 years of playing together.
That's terrible.
Chris.
Yeah, that's life interrupts sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, it does. He had a little girl, and she needed some surgery and stuff when she was born, so it was quite it was well, it's always life changing, I suppose, when you have a baby, isn't it? But so some of the Greg's in some of the videos, and certainly some of the older ones, but the more recent ones with the three of us, that's Chris and John and I, and that's my current lineup. That's what we're gigging at the moment, and I love it. It's awesome.
It looks really fun. I mean, and you're like, you have like an evenly spaced number of like schedulings. Like, I was looking at your gig schedule, and you're like, 3 or 4 in a month. I'm a musician as well, so there's some of this stuff like sort of stands out to me. I went to Berkeley in Boston.
Yeah.
And when I've been in bands, it's been like these runs of like 7 days in a row. And then you're off for like months, and you forget what it even feels like to be on a stage. Like the sort of thing that I would aspire to is sort of your schedule of like 2, 3, 4 times a month, pretty well scheduled and spread apart. But
yeah, it does go in it does go in phases. That there are some times where you get a spate of them all close together, but I think that's probably one of the nice things about being an original artist, is that you don't get that, like, Friday we're at the Royal Oak, Saturday we're at the King's Arms, and Sunday we're on because it's a different type of thing. And certainly what we're doing at the moment is festivals, art centres and small theatres and stuff, and you just can't cram them too close together, because it steps on, it makes each individual show, it takes away from each individual show. So we try and mix it up. Like, John and I do Joni Mitchell kind of homage, if you like. I don't really like the word tribute. I think it's too much pressure on me, I think. But we're
tribute
both.
makes it sound like you're just doing covers, like you're going to get as close to the original as possible. Like an homage, like I could see you sort of making your own interpretations from it. So I could understand the problem with the word.
Yeah, we do a Carole King homage as well. You might have seen some of the videos of the 5-piece in a couple of theatre videos I've put up. More recent videos on my YouTube channel, and they're that's the Tapestry. That's the Tapestry band. So we play the whole Tapestry album and loads of other like
I was
Carole
wondering
King
what
and
you
Jerry
were
Goffin
referring
hits.
to that in that, but you really when you're doing this thing, you play the whole Tapestry album.
We play the whole Tapestry album from start to finish in order, with the interval where you would turn the vinyl over. That's how much of a geek I am. And to pad out the show, well, not to pad out the show, but the Tapestry album is only 45 minutes long. So the temptation is to sort of do Tapestry for the first act and then other stuff for the second act, and I couldn't deal with it at all, and I couldn't deal with mixing all the tracks up, because that whole album is written as an experience from start to finish, and like the break is in the place that it's meant to be musically. So we start with a few things, and and I tell stories from there, tell stories about Carole King and little stupid things that I know about the songs and that kind of thing, and then we start the Tapestry album, and then we break where you would turn the vinyl over for the interval, and then we do the second half and then other stuff afterwards. So it does work out kind of like the show is like 2:45s, but Tapestry's in the middle. And this is a beautiful thing about when she came to the UK, like I was saying earlier, I'd like made peace with the fact that I was never going to see her live, and all of the music that I love is my dad's record collection, and all of the people that I really, really love, most of them were dead before I was born. Yeah. So I've always been really jealous of people who are like love Madonna and love Oasis and love Beyonce, and you can go and see them now in their heyday, and I'm coming up 30 years behind, and it is the one and only time that she has played Tapestry all the way through, from start to finish.
Oh,
and
no
she
kidding. So you got to see her play Tapestry.
Wow.
Yeah. And she said in an interview before, in an interview over here publicising the gig, that it had never occurred to her to do it. And I'm like, I've been doing it for like 5 years. So I thought of it. It's a brilliant idea. But I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that it's the one and only time I was going to get to see her, and she played my favourite album the whole way through in order.
So,
it was amazing.
Even from your site, your bio, Facebook page, you mentioned Joni Mitchell and Carole King, but you also mentioned this record collection that your parents had.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your other influences, and if most of them were already dead, and then I'm curious now as to which ones they are.
Or split up. Yeah. Stuff like the Beatles and Stones and Bob Dylan and that kind of thing. One of the things that we're doing in the acoustic act in the trio at the moment is we've got a Bob Dylan medley, and we whittled it down to half an hour, and it was really hard. So we've got a half-hour Bob Dylan medley.
Man, you really work the preparation that goes into something like this, and the number of things that you just mentioned. That you play Tapestry all the way through. You've got a Bob Dylan medley that lasts a half an hour. I mean, this is brutal.
It is.
That's a brutal audition schedule. I can't imagine being involved in that.
I think one of the reasons why I am, I'm really, really loving the band that I'm playing with at the moment, playing with Chris and John, is that it is like what it was like when I was at college. When you're in a band with all of your mates, and whenever you're together, it's just like Saturday night. It's whatever you're doing, and we're just jamming and we're just playing, and John is a huge mentor of mine. He's I'm massively in awe of him. as a person and as a musician, and to get to play with him, and we just love the same music, and it's really nice to be in a group with and if any of my ex-band members are listening to this, I loved playing with you guys as well, but I know what I put you through. And I know that if I had said to you, I want to do a Bob Dylan medley, and I've got 30 songs, that you all would have gone,
No.
And John's like,
How much
well,
money
how
do
about
you
this
have?
one? And what about that? And and John's like coming up with stuff that I never even heard, like. And I'm, oh my God, that's amazing.
So he knows all of the songs to begin with, which is great.
Yeah.
That's also the advantage of liking the same music, is that you don't have to go, oh, I have to go find out what that is.
Yeah. What do you?
Definitely.
What do you think the difficulties of collaboration are with this golden group that you have right now?
The difficulties, we're all so busy. We're all really, really busy, and like just trying to get together is really hard. John retired this year for about the 5th time, and and he's just so busy. He's like he has time for
a
about
retired guy?
for about a week, and then someone asks him oh, can you run a choir at the Chichester Festival Theatre, and can you do songwriting courses, and can you do this? He's just so massively in demand. Chris is in about 8 bands, I think, at the moment. Could be 10, I lose track. But yeah, he's hugely in demand as well. He's incredible musician, very, very versatile, and plays all kinds of stuff from jazz funk to ska, and as well as singer-songwriter stuff as well. And that's the hardest thing. My biggest regret is that we don't just all live together in a house singing all the time.
Yeah, that's that actually is one of the things that we talk about here, because we have an art studio where we do some public installations and stuff like that, and being able to walk in the door and everybody's going to be there every day is like such an advantage. So I know that, like, that desire where you're like, man, we could just have like a compound where we put the people that we work together with right there.
Yeah.
And so you're with your band, they're all working musicians then. They've been doing and you as well. So are you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So
it is amazing, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
That's really cool. So
thank you.
Like I want to go back to like some of what I've read. You're talking about your parents are musicians. So what kind of musicians were they? Or
my mum sings, and she picked it up quite late in life, really. Both of them, I mean, they were both 60s children, and both of them loved music. They always just loved music. And I've come to realise lately how much influence my dad's mum had on me as a very young child. That I can't believe I've never really realised that before. But like we were always playing music. Like if we went to see my grandmother, she played the squeeze box. She was an incredible woman. She had absolutely no musical theory, training or knowledge whatsoever. She couldn't tell you.
Box. That's
She
amazing.
played a squeeze box. Yeah, she played a squeeze box and the organ, and she wouldn't be able to explain what she was doing or anything. It would just go in her ears and come out of her hands, and she'd be able to listen to something once, maybe twice, and then play it, and it both hands, and it's just nuts to sort of think. But she had a very unusual brain. She was ambidextrous, and she had this skill where she could beautifully write your name completely mirror image, so that you have to hold it up in the mirror to read it the right way around. It's like, I don't even know how you would go about trying to do that. So I'm dyslexic, and I think that she was as well. But yeah, whenever we were around there, she was one of 14, I think.
Whoa.
And yeah, and she was a real
kids.
Wow.
she was one of 14 siblings. Not all of them still living at that time.
Yeah.
But we'd go round to Nana's, and she's a real feeder as well. And she taught me to pour a beer when I was 12. As opposed to my nan on my other side, who's still living, who's never drunk alcohol in her life. We've just celebrated her 95th birthday. She's one of my best friends. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, my nan, we'd have all these, great aunts and uncles and stuff all sitting around, and my parents and my cousins, and just sit around and have a sing-song, like an old-fashioned. It was quite a big thing in London, like through the war and stuff, that people would sit around the piano and sing, and my nana was always leading it. And we had this bag of percussion, this old string bag with all shakers and stuff in it, and she'd pass it around, and everyone had to play something. And I'd be, lying under the piano with my cousins and my brother, and playing with these shakers and stuff. And I was tiny then. I was really small, like 4, 5, and
Sounds like a lot of
she encouraged my dad. Yeah, it was. And I think I had, I do a music group for people with learning disabilities. Once a week, I go into a care home and play music for adults who have got like really severe learning disabilities, to the point where most of them can't speak. They can communicate, but most of them can't speak in a traditional sense. And I was walking around with this bag of percussion, handing it all out, and I just suddenly realised, oh my God, this is what my nan used to do. And I just did it without even realising that, my nan was doing this to me when I was 4. So it was
really
like,
great.
it was, it's, I don't know, I think I must be going through a phase at the moment. I'm kind of making all these connections with things, that just understanding my own creativity on a level that I've never really appreciated before.
So when you so this is your influences when you're a kid. At some point you make the decision. You're like, I'm a musician. This is what I do. So what was that like?
It was hard, actually. I think I always felt there's a lot going on there, really. It's not an easy choice. It's not an easy lifestyle. And I always felt privileged in as much that, I was born into this country with our healthcare and our, education system. I was sent to private school. My parents love each other very much. They're still together. They've had my back with, they've given me every opportunity. And I always felt like I wanted to use that advantage to help people. And so when I was saying about when I went to Sri Lanka when I was younger, I was there volunteering. So as soon as they let me out of school, the first thing I did was move to the jungle, and and I was teaching conversational English and doing social work in a children's hospital in Sri Lanka for a year with Katie, and that that was an amazing experience at tender age of 18. When you're still young and impressionable. And I wrote the Beautiful Monday album. Most of that was written during that year, because no TV and just time to write and play and all of that. And luckily Katie enjoyed it, because if I had had a roommate who found it really annoying, I don't know what would have happened, really.
Yeah, that caveat has to come with new roommates. It's like you can hear a lot of noise all the time. Yeah. Yeah. I had a house mid-terrace, which I don't know if you guys have houses like that over there, but where the houses are all joined together and you share a wall with your neighbours. So I had neighbours on both sides, and I was like, I've got to move, because both of these people have got babies, and I'm just making noise constantly. And I'm a night owl as well, so it's like, Yeah, that sounds like
I'm up and
Boston,
writing.
But the places that I lived in Boston, where you shared a lot of walls, I
Yeah.
was right across the street from Berkeley, so everybody around me was a musician. So it'd be 2 in the morning, and you'd hear some guy trying to master a Coltrane lick on
Hammer
on-
something out.
yeah, in the middle of the night on a saxophone, which you can't play quietly. By the way, I don't care if you have a mute. I don't care what you
Oh, no way. Yeah, no way.
do. So I
Yeah.
definitely get what you're saying. If you're sharing walls, then you have to make sure everybody around you knows what they're going to get.
Yeah, they were very good about it actually, and they never complained. I was just very aware of it, and like both of them had babies under the age of 1, and everything. And so it doesn't matter like what time of day it is, because the baby is sleeping and awake
Right.
all
Yeah.
day and all night as well. And it's yeah, but yeah. So I always had this feeling like I wanted to use my advantage to help people, and I did that for quite a long time, and I had various jobs. Like I travelled a lot after college, and Asia, South America, volunteering and planting trees and teaching English and doing social work and mending stuff and digging stuff, and it was amazing, and I got some incredible experiences. But obviously you can't live like that. Like I'm not living on a trust fund. I'd like come home and work for 6 months and then find somewhere to go and dig wells and so I eventually came back to the UK and settled down. Well, I didn't settle down. I tried and tried to get a normal job, and I worked for a while with people who had mental health problems and drug problems and stuff. And it's really stressful. It's really, really stressful. And I'm really grateful for the time I had doing that kind of work, but I was never really, really happy myself. And I'd get on the train at the end of the day after work, and the day that I realised I couldn't do it anymore, I had my laptop. The train was absolutely packed. It was like shoulder to shoulder standing, and I'd had this tune going around in my head all day. I mean, I'd always been in bands and performed and gone out and done gigs and stuff at the weekend and that kind of stuff. But the train was really packed, and I had a laptop with Sibelius on it, which is if you don't know what that is, it's music scoring software.
Yes.
And it's this old clunky laptop that was massive, like before MacBook Airs existed, and I had it balanced on the bin, open, desperately trying to get this, composing this tune while everyone around me was, like pushing into my back. And I was like, I so desperately have to do this. It's what is inside me, and every day that I'm not writing music is a day that I'm not happy, and so I started phasing out my day job, if you like. It's like phasing out my other work and building up what I was doing in music, and that transition took, I forget, a couple of years probably.
It's funny because you talk about that moment that you can't do it anymore. We have this so far it seems to be the theme of our podcast. So we end up with people who are saying, and then I couldn't do it anymore, and I had to go do this thing, and I was compelled, and there was no way I was going to avoid it. I have that story probably 4 or 5 times in my life.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to do something that is not who I am, and I know that Troy has a couple of these stories at the least.
At least a couple.
Yeah.
So I definitely relate to that, and I definitely had that experience on a subway car where I was trying to practice music on my way to work. I used to take my guitar to work, and every break and at lunch I was just playing the whole time, and so then singing on the train, which made people they would keep their distance.
I'd finish pieces in Houston traffic, like in the passenger side. Like,
You'd be drawing.
yeah, drawing and painting, like in the passenger, leaning over in the passenger side trying to finish a piece.
Oh wow! Oh my god!
Yeah.
Amazing.
That compelling story is definitely interesting. So how did you make that transition? And then you were talking about that you wrote most of Beautiful Monday while you were living in Sri Lanka.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you make that transition, and how did you get Blue Monday done? I mean, you had to go from, basically nothing.
Not Blue Monday, Beautiful Monday.
Beautiful Monday. Sorry, I keep saying.
That's all right. Don't worry. It's amazing how often people get it wrong. It's
well, because
it's been called all kinds of things. So yeah, don't worry. It's a bit like my name. I answer to most things.
Album Blue
I know
Monday.
it's weird.
Yeah, there is an album, Blue Monday.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah,
And
there is,
I
yeah.
even was telling myself before this started, don't say Blue Monday. It's Beautiful Monday. So you wrote Beautiful Monday in Sri Lanka, and then you're making this decision about where you're going with stuff like this, and
yeah, and I think I tried really hard to be normal. I tried really, really hard to do
tried really hard to be normal. That's funny.
Yeah,
That's like
and
that's like the artist's story, right? I tried so hard.
Yeah.
If I could, I would do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a huge amount of respect for people who are either happy with that lifestyle or can put up with that lifestyle, because if you want to buy a house or have a baby or
you need money.
do anything normal, you need money, and you need security.
And the way I like to say it is, somebody has to plant the corn. It's as much as we love art and it's inspirational and it's a human need. Obviously, we go toward it.
Yeah.
It's in the end, you can't eat it. So
yeah.
But I've spent a lot of time planting corn, as you have too. It sounds like. So I totally understand that sentiment as well. I have a lot of respect for people who run the world.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a symbiotic relationship. It's one of those things that we need each other, and people like that. People in my circle affectionately refer to them as normals, like people who have a 9-to-5 or a proper job or whatever. And the
advantage you have there is your healthcare system, because that's what always drives us back to working. is that we have to somehow pay for our health insurance. So I actually always referred to it, and I was like, if we're in Britain right now, I wouldn't be going to find this job. But it's it's one of those things. It's the envy of American artists.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there are so many people who moan about the NHS, but I personally am surrounded by people who wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the NHS. My mum had a brain tumour. My stepdaughter is recovering from cancer. Most of my friends have had cesarean sections. They would have all just died. It's a massive thing. My mum's little sister, my aunt, lives in San Diego, and she has done for the last 20 years. And it's something that we worry about. I'm very aware of how that affects people's lives in the States, and we are so lucky. We are so lucky here, and there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems with the NHS, but it is still the best system. Yeah, it's still the best system that anyone seems to have come up with so far.
Yep.
And there's a huge amount, and the thing is that they are amazing in a crisis. Like if something is really, really wrong, in an emergency, you can't fault them really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's definitely something to be grateful for.
Yep. So the where we were leading with that was that you sort of made this decision not to do this, and then you obviously started in a production on Beautiful Monday. Were you able to put together a band for that, or how did you get that produced?
Yeah, I already had a band at that time, and I was while I was still working, I'd started an original project when I came back to the UK, and we'd been recording. I'd been gigging with a guitarist called Dan, who's a fantastic acoustic player. We still see each other occasionally, and we'd been similar experience to John and I, really, where Dan and I had really similar taste in music. Like, we both loved the Eagles, and he sang, and we used to go around and play. So we'd kind of worked on a lot of the songs while I was still working. In fact, I think I released that album while I still had a part-time job. So and we toured it. So we did something like a 16-date tour around UK and southern UK and Ireland, which was great fun. that was really good fun. But where we used to rehearse was at a studio at a place where John, who I'm playing with now, where John used to work. So we rehearsed at this studio and started recording it there. So actually at that time I had, as well as playing with Dan, I had a 5-piece rock pop band, and my original project was a rock pop lineup originally, and Beautiful Monday was a side shoot. So we were recording this other album, this like rock album.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and it was like, but I was really young and inexperienced and just assumed that everybody else knew better than me. And I think that is a terrible thing, even if you are inexperienced, especially, if you're self-employed or if you run your own business, or, to just don't be afraid to trust your gut, because I just assumed that everyone else knew better than me. And the whole way that this album was getting produced was getting further and further and further away from what I felt reflected me as an artist. And in the end, it never got released. So we had something like 1,000 man hours on it, and yep. It never got finished. And Beautiful Monday, the first time, we recorded it all in one day. We recorded the whole thing in one day because it was a side shoot to this other project, and I was like, I just have to record these songs like this. And it's almost like the same thing with the laptop on the bin on the train, that's like, I can't do this like this anymore. It's just, I need to, these other songs are calling me, and this is how I want them, and this is how, this is how Dan and I gigged them, and this is how we perform them, and I needed to have that like honest representation of it. And I think that's the that's the Bob Dylan and the Joni Mitchell, those, and the James Taylor, the purest songwriters that I grew up listening to. It's like, it's not all about, how cool the arpeggiators are and, what kind of funky noises you can make with sweaty drums. I think it was a sample on Pro Tools. That it's like, yeah, that's cool and everything, but it's not me, and the whole thing ended in tears.
The song should stand on their own. And the production can get in the way a lot of the time. Yeah, and I think I had no experience of how to work with a producer. I just kind of thought about, just kind of sat there and didn't say anything, and just sat there getting, unhappier, more and more and more unhappy. So we recorded Beautiful Monday in a day. And before you know it, we're booking dates all over the place to tour it, and it was easier to release. It got released very quickly, because you don't have all of the complication of the production and the mastering that goes with all those tracks and all that stuff. So. So we turned it around really quickly, and we did this amazing tour. It was just so much fun. That's driving awesome. Around, and Dan had a I'm going to say minibus, but that's not what I mean. This is me being dyslexic because I'm tired. He had a camper van
I don't know what you guys call it over there. Would that be a RV?
Oh yeah, an
Sure.
RV.
Drive
I
it and you
guess
can
that's
sleep in it, and there's a kitchen in it and stuff.
Yeah.
And we were just driving around with all the PA in Dan's truck. and it was great, and you just like park outside the venue and load in, and then
and then
have
you're at
dinner.
home. You don't have to go very far.
Yeah, you don't have to go anywhere, and then have dinner, and then go and do the gig, and then come back and have dinner again. Is actually what happened most.
So
That
obviously
was good
you
fun too.
released this independently, and all of your stuff is independent.
It is, yeah.
So how did you? How have you been dealing with distribution, like the nightmare business? I don't want to do this kind of stuff.
I have tried most things with distribution, and the fact of the matter is that if you're doing all of your own marketing, which I am, then everything comes to me anyway. So if you're distributing on a platform where that business or whatever is taking a cut for the privilege of distributing it, that's something I can do myself. There's a few things that
Yep.
there's a few things that I have that are like drop shipped, so people order them and they just go, they're made to order sort of thing, and they a few of my like specialty single albums and stuff, but generally I handle it all myself, and everything comes straight to me. So until such times that's not manageable, I do that as much as I can anyway, because I really like to make a personal connection with my fans, and I've got a private group on Facebook where we hang out and chat and stuff, and
that's really cool.
So yeah,
and it's
that's
also one of the
what I
things
do.
that it's this is our modern thing. Even if we started out with you don't need to interact with the people that are buying your stuff. People want a personal connection with the artists, and especially independent artists, and they're sort of taking their own risk and kind of coming and identifying with you. So it's the whole package. So that's really cool that you have that, that you reach out like that. And also, totally makes sense to do the drop shipping. Everything is available now. You just have to sort of put in the legwork. So
yeah, it is quite expensive. Is the only thing that the drop shipping option is more expensive kind of per disc, but it does make it easier for me to make CDs. I still like to have something that you can hold in your hand.
Yep.
And is that when we first toured the album, we did it with Oxfam, which is a charity here in the UK, and they do work all over the world. But they had an initiative back then called Ox Jam, where people would do like all kinds of different music events and raise money for Oxfam. And I sort of felt like, because I'd written all these songs about, I'd written most of them during my time in the third world, working with people who were dying because they couldn't have a pill that was 50p, that I wanted to give something back, and we set ourselves a target. I think there was something like, if you raised X amount of money, you could get grain storage and fresh water for one village, and that's what our target was to raise enough money with the tour to have food and water for one village in Africa, and I think by the time we came back off tour, we were on our way to raising enough money for the 7th village. So
no
we'd
kidding.
like
Wow.
massively, I think we raised enough on the launch night actually for the first one. So like we went off, so that the launch night we did at home, we did in our hometown, and then we went off And it was great. That event was so cool. We had one of the breweries was supporting us, and they gave us a barrel of Foster's. They donated a barrel of Foster's. They said all of the money that from this barrel of Foster's can go to your charity. So we had all of these posters made. It said drink Foster's to end poverty, which is it's like some of the best posters ever. And be a musician, and just because I'm a musician doesn't mean that I'm lazy and selfish and lying
and
around
that you're looking
drunk
for
all the
fame
time.
and fortune, like which we're unlikely to find in large quantities anyway, right?
Right.
I get proposed to on Twitter probably 3 or 4 times a week, and it's like, how do
you got
people
that going
like
for you.
Dielle deal with it? Like,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And people yelling it from the audience, stuff like that. That's pretty funny.
I love you. Oh man.
So you went on from Beautiful Monday to Fearless. Is there like a couple years in between that and like writing?
Yeah.
And moving on to a different ensemble and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had a really hard time over the intervening years, and I was writing Fearless, and I was devastated that the original band project hadn't worked out. And it was really, really hard to recover from that. We actually had interest from Sony from that album, and the fact that I never got to see where that went, it took me a long time to really get over that. And until like relatively recently, until after Fearless came out, I think I carried that regret with me. And then now you you look back on it and think, geez, if I had been signed to Sony then, all of the cool stuff that's happened in the last like 2-3 years, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that. But,
so Fearless, how long has it been out?
Fearless was out in 2014, which is when I remastered Beautiful Monday, and that was largely because it was recorded so quickly. The more I listened to it, the more I thought, actually, we could tidy this up here and there. It's still not perfect, but I think that's the thing about having the technology that we have now, is that the temptation to go back. Years ago you couldn't do that. Like, you just recorded stuff, and once it was recorded, it was done. And the thought of going back to the studio and spending all of that money and doing it all over again was just insane. I spent so long in the rock pop band thinking, right, everything I write has got to be commercially viable, it's got to be radio friendly, and it is a total passion killer for me.
Man, I know that. I did that for a number of years too, because I was always thinking, how am I going to get out of this job? So I was always writing things in terms of commercial viability, and then I would lose interest. Like, I just couldn't really sustain any real interest in that approach to creation. So yeah,
and I think especially when you've got such a small amount of time to do it, and this is the beauty of the situation that I've got now. I mean, I still have a small amount of time to actually sit here in the studio and just write all day long. And even if I could do it every day, it probably wouldn't be enough time, because it's like the more time I spend in here, the more ideas I have. So it's a real catch-22.
You are writing a film score at this point, right? For a
I am, yeah. Yeah, I'm writing a few,
A few? Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I haven't answered any of your questions. I've just rambled on.
Oh no, that's the best way to do it. We put strategically placed sounds to wind up our guests, and they just take off.
So did I actually answer your last question?
Oh, you did. You did. You're doing really well.
Oh man, yeah. So when Fearless came out, it was actually really, really popular in the States, and it did well. It did well here, and I'm still selling 3 years later. Mostly, I do a lot more downloads than hard copies. Round about that time, somebody picked. So there's a track on the Fearless album. I'm just gonna hold the Fearless album up to the camera because I've got on my CDs. This is Fearless. So the opening track, "No One to Thank or Blame," was picked by someone I met on Twitter to go in her movie, and she just contacted me and said, you know, I really like this track. Do you mind if I use it for this horror film? And it's the kind of thing that you dream about, that, you know,
Somebody picture your music for a
gonna
movie.
pick a song. And the thing with Fearless, you asked about the time between Beautiful Monday and Fearless, and so we remastered Beautiful Monday. I was absolutely determined this time that this was going to reflect me as an artist, and I didn't care if anyone didn't like it. I didn't care if it got played on the radio. I just needed this to reflect me as an artist, and it does. And that is the first time of all the projects I've been involved with that I could say, this CD is me, this is my legacy to the world. And I got to work with the absolutely amazing Pete Hartley, who played strings on this. And I recorded it over a period of 3 years, so I'd go to the studio and like do a keys session, and you know, play along to whatever tracks I had, and like every engineer that worked with me on this at something like three different studios, all of them asked me what plugin it was. I'm like, it's a human man with a violin.
It's like, with a violin. That's funny.
It's a human guy, and like you can hear his fingers, and you can
hear his fingers,
touch.
and you can hear like he's got a real blues sensibility, which is really uncommon in somebody that isn't just a fiddle player, which is a totally different type of violin playing, right? I mean, it's not going to come out the same. So I know what you're talking about. I don't think you could have gotten that sound at all. It's almost like a blues bend, like almost a guitar player.
Yeah, you can hear all the gliss and all of that, and and the pizzicato where he's where he's plucking the strings. And what I love about Pete is that when you get back what he's played, or when he plays something, you can tell that he's listened to the song, and he's playing the song. He's not just playing, right, what key is it in?
Oh yeah.
If you listen to the expression in the strings on Fearless, and what he's playing is the words that I've just sung. It is a spiritual experience. So this producer asked me if she could have that track for the last scene in this particular movie, and then we got chatting, and she said, well, we were kind of hoping that maybe you might like to do the whole score. And I was like, okay. And at the time I was like, I've got no idea how I'm going to do this. But I was just, that like Richard Branson thing of just say yes and then figure it out later. I do that all the time. I've been composing for that, and her business is growing at a rate of knots. So there's stuff coming in all the time, but we work really well. We work really well creatively, and she can, she's got something like 120 scripts to be made at some point, and we just work together really well. And we didn't actually meet face to face until I went to LA in June this year. So we've been working together like basically over Facebook Messenger for the last 2 years, and
isn't it amazing? The miracle.
It is like when I have struggled so much to work with people face to face.
Yeah, I mean, even this interview was a miracle. I mean, we're in Houston, you're in Britain.
Yeah,
it's amazing. But to be able to, I work on a daily basis with people I'll never see in person. Like that's it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's an amazing thing, and I got to know her really well, and we're really close now, and bounce a lot of ideas off each other about all kinds of things. And through her I met another guy called Mark, who's one of the actors in the original film. He also has his own indie movie production company, and he asked me to do some music for him, so that I was involved at a much later stage in Mark's project. Like they were almost ready to screen. They were editing at the point that he asked me, and we put we did a pre-teaser for the horror film, and it had been available to view for about 40 minutes with my music on it. It had been available to view for about 40 minutes, and Mark contacted me and said, will you do some music for me? So I did a bespoke composition for him, an orchestral composition.
Oh, no kidding.
For him. Yeah, and then you know, and that turned into like 2 or 3 pieces for that film. So I didn't do the whole score for that. I've done like 3 pieces, 3 pieces for that film, and that premiered in June, which is why I went to LA. So
oh, no kidding.
So
that's great. What's the name of the movie?
It's called Stolen Breath.
Okay.
And it's an indie project. So I think they're just about to they're just about to start like going around all the festivals and stuff.
Okay.
But all these indie projects, these people are so driven, and you know the
you
risks
really
that
gotta
they
be
take.
driven to go that far. Yes.
Yeah, we'll look for it. Where can we find your albums?
If you go to my website, if you send dlmusic.com and click on music, all my stuff's there, or iTunes.
Okay.
And we can find you on Facebook and.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. All of that is DL Music UK for all of that.
Oh, okay. So at DL Music UK for your Twitter and all that stuff.
Yeah. One thing I didn't say was about my recent single that was released. So the one that we're on at the moment is First Time, which is a reggae track. And,
I didn't listen to that one. It's the only one I haven't heard.
Yeah, it's on iTunes. It's the one with the teddy bear.
Okay. That's why the teddy bear theme on your Facebook page. I get it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
So that's the artwork for the single. So that's First Time, and because I grew up listening to my dad's vinyl, I did a B-side with it as well, despite the fact I had to explain to loads of people on Twitter what a B-side is.
Right.
But it's like when you used to hold the music in your hand and then pick it up and turn it over on the other side. It's like, otherwise you just have blank vinyl on that side. But the second, the B-side to that is Say Hello Butterfly. So they're 2 really, really contrasting songs. The First Time is a massive production. We've got like loads and loads. I got my friend Steven to play loads of brass on it, and it's loads of backing vocals and stuff. It's really big. And Say Hello Butterfly is it could be, you know, it could sit on the Fearless album. It's really like piano, vocal, and tiny tambourine, just a tiny
the tiniest tambourine.
Tiniest little tambourine. Yeah, it's like so yeah. And the only argument for that is for them being together is like they both have the word butterfly in.
Oh, you got a B-side. I mean, the definition of B-side is the contrast, right? Like, what did they throw on the other side of this thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Dielle, thank you very much.
Oh man, it's been so good. Thanks so much for squeezing me in.
Yeah.
And doing it a bit earlier as well. It was really cool.
Thanks for squeezing us in.
No kidding. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
It's been really fun. Dunk. All right, now we're gonna do an outro.
Okay.
So, what did you think of Dielle?
Well, she's definitely passionate about her work.
Absolutely.
And I'm interested in seeing this horror movie. There's not a horror movie that I'm not interested in. And if she did the soundtrack, I'm gonna be a big fan now.
Yeah.
But it's what am I trying to say here? It's we were talking about the similarities and how things just kind of aren't any different from here to across the pond, right? I mean, it's just the same.
Yeah, I mean, I was having the same thoughts. as we're interviewing her, I keep thinking, man, we have these conversations all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you have the ultra creative people in your group, and then people that sort of like, they go, well, we can do this part of that.
Right.
And then, so you have the practical and the super creative, and then you have like problems with distribution. You could just count on that story from everybody, no matter what. And then, the pain of knowing that you can't be normal, but being normal. If you could be normal, it would be easier than this whole thing that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're universal. Like really universal story.
What stuck out on this for you?
The amount of commitment.
Right.
That's the big one for me. Is that she's doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at Dielle music, and I'm going to plug her albums here: "Beautiful Monday" and "Fearless," and she's got a single out that I can't think of the name of right now. But they're all out on her website, and you can find ways to get there at diellemusicuk.com. To find out that wasn't her main gig, or not initially wasn't her main gig. It was a side gig to something else that she thought was going to work out.
Yeah.
Also points to other things that we talk about, that we need to be doing more. You know, you put more irons in the fire, and then that kind of thing. So, that's another universal story, but it's also like that's what stands out about her and the group of people that she's around.
Right.
Is that they've all got 15 things. Like your answer to your question.
Yeah.
Like, what's it like? What are your pain points in collaboration?
Yeah.
With this, your ideal collaboration. They're all too busy to spend time together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. The other thing that I wanted to ask, but I didn't ask, and I think it's going to be a topic probably of an I Hate Art, is, what do you like about your old work? What do you think you've taken from that or not taken from that into your new work? And how do you think your new work is different?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's you're right. It's a good I Hate Art topic.
Yeah.
And you could ask that over and over again with different people in the room, and
totally.
you would end up with a different conversation every time. But that's interesting. And it's also interesting that, you come off of recording an album, just go straight into a tour. Like, the amount of work,
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's crazy.
She's putting a lot of work into this stuff. So, and it's good. So.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. I guess that's the end.
Yeah. Go home, drink something hot.
Thank you for listening to the Twisted Pop Podcast. For show notes, go to twistedpop.com/podcast. Merchandise at bigmyth.com. That's BIG-MYTH.com. In association with nquick.com. Until next time, this is the Twisted Pop Podcast. Free.